Well, hello and welcome. This is Thursday, November 3rd, 2022, episode 16 of The Wrap. This is a show running up all things Zwift from the last week, racing, events, tech, fashion, etc. We are live on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and should be Twitter, I believe, maybe today. I'm not running productions today. Anna's in charge of that. If it isn't live anywhere, it's not my fault. I'm Nathan Guerra. Anna Russel is next to me. I am not in Wisconsin of the US of A. I am in Curitiba, Brazil. But Anna has is stuck in New Zealand still. She doesn't get to take planes to across the world right now, it seems. But today we've got for you lots going on. The usual fashion show. We'll talk about what I'm doing in Brazil. I heard that there's bots out on the Alp de Zwift. We'll chat a little bit about the Grand Prix, what's been going on with that for the last couple of weeks. Specifically, the squad skirmish, though, have some conversation about that, as well as having a guest on today. We'll be talking to Aaron Bleakley about all things team time trial, team member of NZ Bro, and definitely someone who likes to get into the more technical aspects of the TTT. Just about every week for a while there, while I was competing in the team time trial on a weekly basis for WTRL, I would get a message from Aaron about how my TTT went and why we did how well we did, as well as what they were up to with his team to get the best time that they possibly could. So Aaron is definitely someone who's been watching team time trials and making sure that, I don't know, keeping track of how I'm even doing. I think he also likes to watch me rage about the
Everyone likes
time
that.
trial and at my
Everyone likes Nathan Rage. it's um, it's awesome. I'm stoked to have Aaron on. I will say, Nathan, I am not stuck in New Zealand. It is paradise here at the moment. Wednesday night, I went to the beach, swam in the ocean, did a race actually. It was a swim race and then a run along the beach. Took my whole family. We had fish and chips afterwards. It was blazing sunshine. It was absolutely stunning. Ice creams after the race. So, yeah, I'm here in paradise. I know you're in the Southern Hemisphere now too. So, welcome to the sunny side of Christmas. It's amazing, right?
Peixe and batata, I think is what I'm supposed to say. I have no clue. I can't speak Portuguese. But yes, it's warm here. Definitely a lot warmer than, well, the funny thing is that I got here and suddenly, I don't know if I brought bad weather with me or what, but it suddenly was raining and 8 degrees. And I'm
Wow.
actually swapping over fairly well to Celsius, but so 50 degrees. It's been that for the last couple of days. Then finally today it broke, and we've been in the 60 degrees, and got out for a ride finally today. So that's been nice. But yeah, and it's spring, which I was not expecting to have any allergies for another 6 months or so. And so, no, I'm not complaining. Everything is actually really amazing here. But I was like really surprised that I had itchy eyes today. I was like, oh, duh, everything's opening up here, which is
Yeah.
completely the opposite of back home. Everything's closing down, so I don't have any allergies from like the middle of summer all the way until the next spring usually. So I had a little bit itchy eye. I thought you guys were all going to see like maybe like puffed up red eyes, but whatever it is doesn't actually get into, I don't know what it is here I'm allergic to, but something that does not cause it to be like in my respiratory, but just a little bit in the eyes. So not too bad. But definitely a different riding experience
Oh, yeah.
here
Tell
as
me, is
well.
it
Very, very.
how so? How's it different compared to the US?
So our mountains here do not suddenly just show up like boom, like there it is. There's a mountain, boom, straight up, and it's just like everything is very up and down, up and down. I mean, I don't know if maybe I hear Switzerland might be like that a little bit. I don't know what to compare it to as far as mountains go,
Okay.
because for us, the Rockies or even the Appalachians, they consistently go up for a while to
Yeah,
get to
they
the top, and you see
do.
like you
Yeah.
see them, you know. But here, it's just like there's a mountain, and it just goes boom straight up, and it's even any of them hills here. It's just very up, down, ravine. Everything's like ravines and canyons rather than steady
Well, I guess
gradients. I think it has something.
if you think about it, right, as I reconned like Innsbruck, if you think about Austria and you said Switzerland, it would be similar, right? It's kind of flat, 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 you're riding, and then you take a right-hander and you're boom on a 10%. So I think you're right. Maybe it is a bit more similar to Europe. I know from living in the States, yeah, the mountains kind of, you're eased into it over there. It's nice. You sort of start off on the lower slopes, get used to that 2 to 3%, and then it builds up. You guys just have it too easy. You need to go 0 to 10.
That's pretty much all the climbing today was 0 to 10 over and over and over again, which I don't mind it. It's fun. It's really, I actually kind of like that punchier stuff personally, but it makes for good racing. It seems like too. There's also, we met up with a couple of friends randomly. I'm here with Gabriella and she knows everyone that does anything biking, it seems like, because all of a sudden we're talking to someone else, and they always be like, oh, he doesn't speak Portuguese, and I just sit there and watch. And so, but I guess there's a couple of races this weekend, and I kind of like, my eyes went, opportunity to be doing XC race in Brazil. So we'll see. Follow the Instagram. We'll see if that ends up happening.
Yeah, you should do it. A word of warning. I remember racing in France, and if you're not super clued on to the language, I almost missed my race because they're talking over the loudspeaker, and I'm like, what are they saying? What's going on? I have no idea. So you're kind of wandering around being like, I know there's a race. I don't know where I'm supposed to go or when I'm like going places. So yeah, at least you've got Gabby there. I just wandered around like a little Muppet going, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I pretty much just follow her around like a little puppy right now because I have no clue what the heck is happening most of the time. As far as the racing goes, I'll just sit second wheel and hope the guy in front of me doesn't take a wrong turn, right? As long as I can't even read the signs probably. So, I'm in Brazil. That's happening. I'll be here until early next week, and then we'll be back to the regular scheduled program. I hear you might be taking some trips though on the road, so we'll have some more on the road stuff happening later in the year. Is that right, Anna?
Yeah, I'm actually commentating in real life the Ironman events here. So I will be heading to Topor in December, but there is actually one coming up where Nathan may need a guest host because I kind of am looking at the schedule. We're doing an adventure weekend, my husband and I, for our 40th. And it's pretty adventurous. There's no cars, so we have everything, right? And so I'm thinking, yeah, I will be literally on a bike with just my phone. So that might be, I mean, there's adventurous and then there's I don't know if technologically that's even possible. So yeah, it's just great. It's my youngest is a bit older now, so we can kind of get out a bit more. And it's an epic summer coming up. I'm pretty stoked. I've got to say, I've worked a lot on my Zwifting over the winter. I have not worked on my swimming. And my swim on Wednesday was humbling, to say the least. I need a Zwifting for swimming to get me motivated to get in. I'm not that motivated to get up at 5 a.m. and go swim laps. And it was in the ocean. There were lots of waves. I was well out of my depth. I used to be a good swimmer, and this was a shocking experience. So I'm going to be starting to do a little bit more swimming so that I can feel a bit better in the water, I think, over the summer. But yes.
Get those shoulders back.
I know.
You have to get the shoulders back, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So what's happening about, I'm seeing here in our script something about bots on the Alpe de Zwift. Now, first, before we jump into that, I just want to say, if you have any experience with what you thought, because Anna's had an experience recently on the Alpe de Zwift that's very interesting, and I've rarely heard all the details she actually shares through this. There's some interesting stuff around how she might be figuring out that this is a bot. But I definitely have seen situations where people have ran a bot or two on Zwift. If you have, or if you've got an experience about it, let us know in the comments. Also, tag us over on Instagram. We'd love to know if you are discovering anybody manipulating anything in game. But Anna, it sounds like you went after the jerseys. You were going. You promised. You made a promise.
I did.
Right?
I made
you
a
said,
promise.
I'm going to go get the Alpe Zwift jersey. And suddenly someone ruined the whole experience, not just for you, but for all of us.
I know. So I was in the Flamme Rouge. It was the Queen stage. I was going up Alpe de Zwift. And yeah, I wasn't going personal best, but I was pushing. I was like, this will be a sub 50. I was sitting in there. It was pretty good. I think it was like a 47, so it's not a terrible time. I see Carsten in the chat. I think he watched the stream, so he might be able to back me up here. I get to the top. I'm like, cool, I'll have the jersey. And I'm like, wait a sec, I don't. Who is this person? Okay. Firstly, I felt devastated. And then I was like, oh, let's just see who they are and have a look. Because they'd ridden it in 40 minutes alone, which I was like, that's like Kristen Kulczynski kind of climbing, Courtney Nelson kind of climbing, like Ella Harris kind of climbing in a race situation. So I was like, this is, wow, like I wonder what team she's on. And then I go and have a look. I'm like, this is kind of odd. They're a really new Zwifter, which is cool. Like they could be just extremely good. Every single activity for the last month on their activity feed was going up Alp to Zwift in the exact same time. I was like, well, that's strange. And they're not in workout mode, so okay. But also every single activity, there were no photos. It was just a blacked out image, just black. I was like, that's weird as well. And then I went and watched her doing the downhill. I was like, they're going 4.4 watts a kg on the downhill here. Like, what the? And I don't know, maybe I'm just a really poor loser, but I was sort of like, it seems really random. Like, and I was like, do I report this? I was on my stream. I was like, do I report this or do I not? I mean, it could just be, this is a legit rider who is, new and wants to do the Alp every day in a certain time and race it really hard downhill as well. I don't know. What do you think? Am I legit thinking this?
Well, it's as sketchy gets as far as bots go. I mean, every single day it sounds like this person really, really wants their Tron bike. That's that. I mean, otherwise it's a Tron bike thing, or I don't know what other motivation there might be there. But do not do this. That's the first thing I'm going to say to anyone out there. It is against the terms of service, so it is a reportable thing. I just want to say that up front, we're not here to celebrate cheating, that's for sure, or rigging the game in any way whatsoever. But it's also kind of funny. It's kind of hilarious that there's this person and they're like blacking out their screen. So I mean, that sounds like that's also intentional. Maybe. I mean, what other thing could be going on there so that they can't be seen for what they're doing? That's like some next level espionage to grab the Tron bike or something. But my question is, did you see any other activities than those?
No, it was just the Alp, just going up the Alp. So that, whatever, Road to Sky.
Like this person just made an account to do that.
Yeah. It was so strange. And so, long story short, I didn't get the jersey, but I do have to say I had a great time riding up there with my Fearless teammates, Team Fearless, who are lovely team, had me guest ride. And they were awesome. There was a bunch of them going up, so I jumped on Discord afterwards and helped them along a bit there at the end as well. And there was some great chitty chat. I can see Amy Mundasev in the live chat as well. And they're huge fans of the show now. So big shout out to Team Fearless. It was, that sweetened it. I was annoyed with the bot, and then I got on the Discord chat and I felt better and felt great getting off the bike. So I guess that's a good end to the story, right? Don't be disheartened by the bots.
There you go. And we had to grab a different jersey this week for the fashion show pick, specifically because of the bot. The bot ruined the Alp to Zwift this week, but that's okay. We've got a pretty good pick.
This is the other weird thing, is I clicked on her to then I was like, well, I'll just get a photo of her in the jersey because I'll still just show the jersey. There was actually no jersey on her. That's why I got this other one. So that's also a bit strange, isn't it? Huh. Okay.
Everything about this is like, what is going on with this person?
Okay. Well, anyway, you'll have to stay tuned to see what the jersey is this week.
No bots, everyone. There have actually been consequences in the past if people have not known. Just go ahead and do a little searching about Tron bikes and bots, and you'll find it pretty quick, most likely. So definitely not something that you want to participate in yourself as well. But away from that drama now, last week, the Grand Prix, round number 3, squad skirmish. I love the show notes here. And this first thing, and I actually had a interview yesterday with one of your teammates, Liz Van Houweling, over on the ZCom Unique. That'll be launching once they're done with editing. Great conversation about her Zwift Academy finalist and everything. But she felt kind of the same way, it seemed like. In the show notes, it says, worst format ever, big question mark. I mean, okay. The other question is, do people enjoy watching it? And that is in here as well. And I do think people enjoy watching it. But the question is this, now this is the question that came up in yesterday's podcast as well. Is this a sport or is this a TV show? Right? Like, is this a sport or are we just putting on a Las Vegas show, roll the thing and people, well, you know what I mean? There's two very different things going on there where if you want to grow a sport, you need to grow a tradition that people want to compete in, that they want to, go from the lowest level up to the highest. You don't want to create WWF. This isn't WWE. We're not creating some World Wrestling Federation thing to just give entertainment on a TV. We want to create a competitive environment that people want to participate in. And so I'm getting the sense that wasn't exactly what you were feeling as a participant, Anna.
I think there's two sides to this. As a participant, okay, I'll start from the participant side. From the participant side, it was not a great format because I was on my bike for 2.5 hours, but I raced for less than 10 minutes, which is just a bit annoying. That's a long chunk of your morning, which is fine. Like, this is, I love Grand Prix racing, but I want to race a bit more. I also felt like just the format, the way it's structured, is it feels like a bit of a Zada test, that one. Like, there wasn't much racecraft. Like, yes, you could break away and do things like that, but it really came down to how good is your 2-minute power? How good is your whatever, like 300 meter, 20-second sprint power? It didn't have a nuance or a racecraft to it as much as, say, the week before. I loved the week before, which is like the World Champs format. You have the longer races, you can kind of do a bit of stuff, you can strategically get into top positions. Anyway, but I came off, I was like, it was still fun. Like, I still love being on my bike and talking with my teammates. That was cool. Then I went to my parents' house that night and I was like, do you guys want to watch the Grand Prix that I did this morning? They're like, sounds good. We're watching it. And they're like, I'm so confused. And I'm like, okay, that's not good. Like, that's why I then went, okay, this is not a good format. One, it wasn't great for the races. And two, they were just like, what's that? So I think if you look at, say, mountain biking, I know that they have I'm giving this analogy, but I'm probably going to give it wrong. But you have like cross country, the standard race, and that's good to watch. But obviously they put in short track to make a bit more excitement, that kind of pumped up audience kind of thing. But it's still simple. You still get it, I think what happened is it kind of swayed too far in the entertainment side where it got very confusing for the viewer to be like, what? Where are we now? What's happening? And I think that but this is a testing series. This is the whole point, is to see what works. And I think it just went a little bit too far into that kind of entertainment, but not clear. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Nathan?
Well, I don't like watching cricket. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Literally. So, I mean, and I think, I don't know. I'm not going to go there. I'll leave that one alone. Who came up with this idea? Oh, it might have been the UK office. Anyways, I don't like watching cricket.
So, okay. Neither do I.
But I think you're right there. No, and even in productions and pre-commentary, we had to really do our research to be able to talk about this. And then while the commentary was going on, I was still fumbling a little bit and I've been researching it for the week prior, and even when the whole thing was announced, what's this skirmish, and even the squad skirmish. And so I would have to agree with you that it was fairly complicated. The one thing I'm going to celebrate one thing about this, though, that I really did like, and that was the idea of a repeatable competition like this that you could just go out and do over and over and over again. Now, that would be something, this is a discovery process that's not just about the highest level of esport. what kind of game modes might work, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so this could be a game mode in the future where just race Titans go reverse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Over and over and over again. And I really liked the idea of, and I said this during broadcast a little bit, where you have these specific places in Zwift that you know how to game them. You know how to use the terrain and the power profile that you have. And it might favor, like you said, it might favor this person or that person. But if it's a long enough section, like the Titans Grove reverse, Hilly KOM forward is, yeah, you're right. It's kind of just a minute and a half test, whatever. But Fuego flat sprint, those ones I think are kind of cool to maybe do repeatable tactics on. So
Mm-hmm.
that was something I think that was discovered there, where you can find sections of Zwift courses that could be repeatable sections to use over and over again for competition. If somebody just wanted to go out and find a group or do some quick play, what's the word, where matchmaking, where you could do some matchmaking real quick. Now this is, pie in the sky thinking. I don't know how soon Zwift could come up with any kind of matchmaking to quickly get people on the course over and over and over again. But if you have enough users to get quick matchmaking, you could have a pretty cool short little BMX race or some sort of race like that. So I think as far as that goes, I do have to agree with you though. I think even in the comments during the broadcast, there were people like, what? Huh? But the others who I think just enjoyed the hype of watching the competition over and over again, you did have a lot of people saying, wow, this is really cool. Wow, this is really cool. But then even those same people, I saw them go, but wait, how does the points work?
Yeah.
And I don't know. So, and then the thing for the athletes, without athletes, you don't have a sport. And uh, sitting around for 2 hours, like, who is that really? Are people really going to sit in their living room for 2 hours to wait to race 10 minutes? Like maybe if you go to the track, you're going to do that with your friends in a social environment, or the BMX track, a little bit different. But from your living room, I don't know about that. Like that one I think is a pretty hard sell, Anna.
Yeah, I think it is. I know James Barnes messaged me after his one and he had the same thoughts. He's like, I'm interested to see how you feel sitting on your trainer for that long without racing. I was like, oh, okay. I think, and I don't want to be negative on it because I just wrote an article for Zwift Insider on it. I love, love this Grand Prix stuff. Like, I love that we're trialing different things. So there's going to be some that I really like and some that I'm like, oh, that could be tweaked. So, 80% I'm like, yes, I love where this is going. And then I think you only realize this stuff till you do it, that you go, oh, yeah, the riders sat around for a while. And this is actually a really long show for people to sit and commit to. I'm sitting there with my parents at 8 o'clock at night. I was like, oh, we're going to be done at 10. This is quite late. So, and I think there's just minor tweaks you can do. And that's the whole point of this, right? And Zwift is very open to our feedback afterwards. So I think that one, I think the premise is there. Squad Skirmish has some really good principles. And I think just tidying it up a bit or shortening it. I even think maybe just having the Squad Skirmish element in round 1. And then round 2 is more of a 14-kilometer race with just those 5 teams. Because the other thing, and I know Liz probably would have talked about it because I know she was talking about it on our Discord, is we actually miss racing with each other. We are a team, and every week we're getting kind of separated, and it's a little bit well, not every week, but there's been 2 rounds now where we're getting allocated to separate races, and we're like, oh, I want to race with Morgan and Eleanor and Jen, and you're not having that team dynamic part. So I think, yeah, a mix of the two. I think they're getting there. I like what they're doing. So not to be too negative on it, but yeah, it was not my favorite, but I still think innovation rules the day, and I'd rather be doing that than just the same old 40K scratch race.
Yesterday, Liz also mentioned a little bit about what you just said, and I didn't say this on yesterday's podcast, but it reminded me her desire to be on the same course at the same time, but maybe a little bit of a game like what was happening in Squad Skirmish would be harkening back to Gold Rush and the ability for you all to be out on course, but going to different places in order to accomplish different things, but racing at the same time and making a decision on who helps who to get where. right? If you had 5 or 6 riders and 2 riders are working together to quickly get someplace and another rider's working together, and then like you launch your climber up a climb to get there first, and then they get there,
Yeah.
they just get the segment time, and then you two ride together, you catch up, ride together to the next spot, go get a segment time over there, grab some coins, who knows? Like that sounds a little bit more down the lines, because you could still do this skirmish part, which is like go take on a segment, right, against
Yeah.
everybody else. But because they're timed, you wouldn't have necessarily have to be first across the line. You just go get a time,
Yeah.
and then you try and go get those times as quickly as you can amongst everyone or whatever it might be. So just a way to maybe change it up a little bit and make it so that it's all happening simultaneously rather
Yeah.
than sitting around waiting for a pens to open over and over and over again.
Yeah, I know Liz did not like waiting for those pens to open. She's like, "Are the pens open yet? Are they open?" As we're like cruising around Watopia. But yeah, it's I think there's a lot you can do. I think if you look at like, say, I think when I remember the Tour de France, and the moment that stuck out for me was, you know, that bit on the flat area where Roglic and Vingegaard were 1-2ing Pogačar, and it was a team kind of an element to the racing. It wasn't like, okay, Pogačar, Vingegaard, go do that 2-minute climb and let's see who's faster. I'm like, well, that's cool. Like, that's cool testing. But actually, I'd rather see like a little bit more dynamics there. And I think that Fuego one kind of did that a bit better. Like there was, which surprised me, it was flat, and I was like, oh man, it's just going to be a bunch sprint. But there was some great tactics that went off in the men's and women's to sort of have breakaways, get away. Some got reined in. So yeah, I think all the sort of ingredients are there, and hopefully the sort of cake can get baked by the end of this season.
Yeah, it's a great point. Not to say it just one more time. It is a test series. The teams have been involved in helping with the feedback and developing these series. And you got to throw things out there to see what's going to work and what's not going to work. And like you said, maybe a couple of the ingredients are there, the right amounts of them, mixing it well and cooking it right. So I think you're going to get something good on the other end of that.
Are you seeing the chat?
So yes, I am seeing the chat.
We'll start calling you Primoz. Your new haircut, you do look a little bit like Primoz Roglic.
I actually was wondering if that was coming at some point, to be honest. I recently watched one of their YouTube videos because Jumbo Visma puts those out, and it was definitely some cool behind-the-scenes stuff. And I was like, huh. I felt like I was looking in the mirror a little bit at one point.
Did you just take a photo of Primoz into the hairdresser and be like, this? I just want this.
No, the hairdresser is my mom, okay? My mom has been a hairdresser her whole life. And so I just be like, hey, mom, I need a haircut. And so, yeah, no, I definitely did give her a picture of Primoz Roglic. I just did the Gabby wants it short. And then so we went short. That was it. That was all that happened there. So,
oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Our guest today is someone who's been on with us before, but as the PC Yoda is who he's known as well, to help build PCs. But today, from a technical aspect, we're bringing in Aaron Bleakley to talk all things team time trials. He rides for NZ Bro. Aaron Bleakley, welcome to the program. This might be the first time that some of the viewers as well as listeners of the podcast have heard from you, Aaron. Do you want to do just a quick introduction of yourself in relation to things that are Zwift?
Thanks for having me back, guys. It's nice to be back, and it's a bit warmer this morning than the last time I was on the show. So I grew up in Auckland, and for high schools we do TTTs in the morning. It was really, really popular in the 80s and 90s. That would have quite a few teams go really early in the morning down the waterfront in Auckland, and we'll do a 10-mile TTT. And I loved doing that. And we had like quite a lot of variety in the team, so it couldn't just be Aaron sitting on the front for 16 kilometers. So we had to work out how to maximize speed. And then over a period of a couple of years, we ended up getting quite good. And then I didn't do very many TTTs until Zwift, the old Team Pursuit and the odd like club thing over the years. And then I studied sports science, so I have an understanding of the physiological things. So I kind of quite enjoyed that side of things. And then I started with cryo, doing the TTTs, and I was frappe. So I was an A rider in a Frappe team, and we had some C's and B's and a bit of a mix. And then we just started trying to maximize what we were doing. And then we ended up getting towards Doppio with some new riders and changed to NZ Bro, and we've won 27. I've stopped counting times overall. Had 40 odd podiums. So, and 25% of them, Nathan, we're in the crossover section. So we weren't just winning in our winter; we were winning when the Northern Hemisphere was racing as well. And there's 100. We're on to TTT 185. So we've won 15% of all WTRL TTTs. So that doesn't make me an expert. I'm an expert, but like there's plenty of other people and there's plenty of other teams who are as knowledgeable or more knowledgeable. Like I'm learning stuff every single time I watch a team on a stream. There's no way that I can know everything, but I'm happy to be on the show with you guys.
I've already got people commenting saying, thanks, I've gone out and got my gaming PC. If you didn't know, go listen to the last, it was actually one of our quite popular ones early on. I thought it was going to go too deep into the nerdiness, but Aaron actually talked us through a gaming PC setup and how to do that. I already know he's set up a couple of my friends. So that was a great show too to go back and listen to.
I want to just highlight how important that is because I haven't been on a setup that struggles for years now. And while I'm in Brazil here, I am riding some Zwift and I'm on some, I don't know, i7 core 8th generation laptop. And wow, like losing the group, the draft, the bouncing around, I was like, how does Gabby do this? Like, what? It was so bad. And I'm just going, okay, if you really don't think it matters, I am sorry. Like, get a hardwired connection, get a nicer, at least something that can handle the graphics, etc. So go back and listen to that to get an idea of how important it is to have a gaming setup for a video game. You are playing a video game. Like, that's just the reality. So, but then from the TTT side of things, why are we talking team time trial right now? So much has changed with team time trial in the last couple of months even. We've got, the new edition of the TT bikes within the team time trial with their ability to draft. We've got pack dynamics and whether or not those have changed at all with the addition of the TT bikes. We have a possible change to pack dynamics coming in the future. Obviously, it's still being tested. I think it needs to get a lot of bugs worked out. But right now, I think really good time with the ZRL season coming up with 2 team time trials, a good time to kind of have a conversation about how do you do a team time trial? Because I think a lot of people will be interested that might not be as practiced as someone who's won 27 of them, Aaron. So why don't you give us a lowdown of just what are the basic principles of the team time trial on Zwift? Because in real life, line up and you have, even in real life, there's been different ways of doing them. But on Zwift, there's a few different ways of doing a team time trial. If somebody's coming into this for the first time, how do they need to understand that, Aaron?
So there's a couple of different ways that you can line up. Both Nathan and I prefer the pace line. And I think for consistent performance and for future proofing, particularly with what they're trying to aim for in the new pack dynamics, is paceline is what you should be doing. But that's not necessarily.
Can you real quickly give people an idea of what you mean by that, just in case they have no clue what that terminology is?
So paceline is when everyone lines up 1 or 2 meters behind each other. So if it's a ZRL, 6 riders in basically a perfectly straight line, everyone trying to hold the gap the best that they can. And then you take your pull at the front and then you go to the back and then rinse and repeat. That's very, very similar to in real life. That is how I personally think it should look. Like I think that churning behind a lead rider looks ugly and I don't like it, but it can be fast. And going forward, when the churn is gone, then you'll need to do a paceline better. So But we've got good teams who are going very, very fast at every level of coffee class who are doing a tune behind a lead rider. What doesn't seem to work is when you've got a hybrid. So if you've got like a half a pace on, then half a tune, and people are fighting for a wheel, that's where I would say 90% of the TTT teams is doing some sort of hybrid, not doing anything properly. So either commit to doing a pace line or commit to having a lead rider and then not fighting for the wheel behind. So you can see it like if you were to follow a bot that is much harder than your ability. So if you tried to ride a bot on Watopia flat, you'll notice that everyone sits behind a bot and then they kind of just churn behind, and there's a little bit of fighting for the wheels. But if you give up on fighting for the wheels, you can sit like a good watt and a watt per kg, watt and a half per kg less than a bot, quite happily just churning around behind. If you can transfer that through to a 10 time trial correctly, that those teams are going quite fast, the same speed as teams who are doing paceline properly. But when we get new pack dynamics, that will disappear.
So the question I have, Aaron, and this is because I've got a teammate, Jen, she won't mind me saying this, and we kind of we disagree on the TTT format. We're actually practicing it today in WTRL. So I think the single file line makes sense and is the best option. And she kind of goes with more of a momentum strategy. I guess that would be the churn one. And I kind of see parts where I agree with her. So if you look at Greater London flat, yes, it's mostly flat, but there's a few little rollers and little pinches, and you look forward to the next one we're doing, Watopia's waistband. Again, flat mostly, but a few little rollers. What do you do on those rollers? Do you try and doggedly stay to that pace line? But you've got riders who are different weights. And I mean, I know riding, if I'm sticking with the pace line and I know there's a downhill coming up and I'm not in the front, I won't have a problem with just kind of really easing off to make sure I stay behind that lead rider, whereas others kind of just keep pressure on the pedals and end up slingshotting forward. So is it technique people aren't getting right, or is a single file line just not possible on rollers?
It is possible, but so one part of it is you need your draft savings to be able to pull your pull watts. But then there's also the Zwift effect where you can get a little bit of extra free momentum. So you have to decide, like Nathan's team's really good at using momentum and still holding a pace line. Like a lot of, when OMG are like going really, really good, they get it, like that's where their tiny little bit of extra speed comes from. But you have to decide whether or not that's going to completely ruin the pace line. So it comes down to, like, if you get through a section of rollers, maybe just holding the pace line in the order is the best way if people can feather properly. Maybe churning is better and then get through the end of the section and then go back into pace line quickly. Like, those are all the subtleties of being able to manipulate the Zwift effect that will make you potentially 5 seconds faster than the team that you're trying to beat. And that changes course per course. Like Watopia waistband, we'll get into it later, I find quite boring, and it's pretty easy to like do a TTT for. Like you can basically keep within the pace line really well or within the tune really well. London is a nightmare, and I helped Anna's team for ZRL do a very good plan for that a couple of seasons ago.
We'll be hitting you up again, Aaron.
Yeah. And if you can execute that really, really well, then you can go significantly faster. And we're talking Anna's team improved probably 40 seconds.
Oh, it's close to a minute. Yeah. And it felt easier. That was actually the biggest thing. As we finished and we're like, how did we go that fast? Like that, we feel like that was easier. So we need to figure that one out again. But I think as well, Aaron, part of the big reason for that was you kind of, before what we used to do, and I guess this comes down to the DS or no DS question, is we would have a DS, which was me watching, and people would just take turns kind of almost willy-nilly. Like they'd take their turn, but the length of it was a bit willy-nilly. Like, oh, I'm dying, I'm coming off. Whereas what you said is like, just you're on the clock. So it's like, okay, I'm going from 1 to 1:45. And that next rider knows, okay, at 45, I need to like be up the front. So it made our transitions really smooth. So I guess as well, it comes down to, do you have a DS, right? And how are you taking your turns on the front?
Yeah, and also the other thing that I've been doing quite a lot recently, because I DS and ride, I have DS and ride for 90% of the stuff that I do. And it's not that easy. Like, I used to actually not survive very well in the earlier Doppio races, partly because of ability and how fast the guys were going, and also like I had to make a choice between DSing and breathing. So I'd actually like do my 20 minutes and then go into DS mode and then continue to DS, because that was a more effective use of like my input for the team. But I've been doing cam 3. So camera 3, Nathan's camera 3 is the 1000 best way to do a pace, to hold the pace line if you're going for a pace line, because when you add that to source for Zwift, then you can just basically just concentrate on the butt in front of you, and you're not getting distracted by anything else. And then when you go to do your pull on the front, you go camera 6, so you can see that you're not leaving anyone behind you. And then that fixes like 2 of the main losses in a pace line thing, where number one, people pull too hard and don't have anyone on their wheel, and that really annoys Nathan whenever I watch his streams, is when someone just rides off by themselves and no one's, hold the wheel. Like
hero pull. A hero pull.
And then the other thing is that if you push up on someone, you need to be able to see that you're pushing up on them. And in camera view 3, you start going ever so slightly. You can see, it's hard to explain, but you can go ever so slightly to the side as you start losing draft. So those 2 things will help with the pace line stuff, particularly with TT.
I think that stuff. So one thing I want to say to this, and maybe you can speak to Aaron, is 2 things that came up there. One being the ability to audible in the middle of a TTT. When you're speaking to churn versus pace lining, and what sections of course, there isn't going to be a set way for every section of course, like Anna was bringing up. You've got rolling courses, and yes, certain sections of course are going to call for a different kind of formation and a different way of behaving as a group to get the most speed out of that section of course. And so a lot of times if you have a really well-trained team, and even, I mean, within the top teams, I think at this point, the competition, the motivation for the competition might not be high enough yet that people have practiced even to this level. But, you watch a football team, or you watch American football team, you watch a basketball team, and the point guard or the quarterback is like, play 52. Or whatever, they call fire, they call whatever, and it's like, bam, you know what that means at this moment, you practice enough, and these people get in this line. And so, I have a couple of riders in OMG in our team that are heavier than most of the other riders, and we know that during this section, they're going to put out 450 watts, and they weigh 5 to 10 kilograms more than us. Why would we tell them to hold formation? Why wouldn't we just say, hey, call an audible, go to the front now, allow that to roll through, and then call another audible, call another on the moment to go back into formation. But it's comms. And you need good leadership and good comms about what's to happen at every single moment. If there's confusion, especially in a virtual environment like that, things get wild quick. And so it's really about very good communication, very good leadership, and everybody knowing exactly where they should be and when, and kind of barking a little bit of drill sergeanting. I mean, it's got to be like, you go here, here, and here, and then everybody gets in line and goes, okay, I understand. And then the other thing I would say is self-awareness was the other thing that came up when you were just talking, that I'm not sure that the self-awareness of your avatar and knowing how much it is impacting the other avatars around you really is even understood to this day. Once Pack Dynamics 3.0 launched, if people don't know this, the ability to push avatars around greatly increased. you can't just roll through avatars anymore and they push each other around. So when you start seeing your avatar going slightly to the left or the right of another avatar and you're not sitting in the draft, either the avatar behind you is pushing you out of the draft because they're fighting you for the wheel, which would be your teammate at that point, which is one of the most frustrating things in the world when a teammate starts pushing you off. And that's when churn isn't working, right? That's when churn or hybrid is actually taking away from your draft and wasting your energy to hold the same speed. Or you're giving too much power and you're actually pushing the person in front of you and you're losing draft at the same time. So, maybe speak to the both of those things. But I think you've spoken a little bit to the idea of the right places for the right courses and the right parts of the course to call audibles or change up how you're grouping. But the self-awareness thing, I think, is something that's missed on a lot of Zwifters.
Yeah, and like that's the biggest problem I have, like, because our team has had quite a lot of different riders throughout the time. Like, we don't just have like the best guys turning up every single week. We have to just take from the NZ Bro crew whoever is available, and we work with it. And some people will take a little bit of time to understand. Like, I think there might still be, like, harking back to my previous episode, is like there's still an Apple TV bad PC effect within stuff as well. So people may be feathering properly, but it doesn't look like it. Like, one of the ones that I DS'd when I had COVID, one of the riders said, "Oh, I'm not pushing up," and then on my screen, on everyone else's screen, they were pushing up, but on their screen, they were holding a 2-meter gap. So, like, it's hard to be self-aware when your equipment's no good. so if you can start with that, and then just generally, like, just appreciate that what you are doing is affecting your teammate, like, at all stages. So if you pull too hard, if you're not holding the wheel correctly, if you push up, like, decide on what you're going to do as a team and then do it, and then have a DS, which we'll cover later, to make sure that you're doing it. And then just understand that also the game and the momentum of the game just really wants to screw with you the whole time. Like, it's not easy to go through rollers and hold position, like, and you have to just allow yourself some leeway within the self-awareness that stuff isn't going to go right. And then how quickly you get back to right is the difference between having, like, what I call a good TTT and a bad TTT. Like, just because we won a bunch, like, half of those wins I'm not happy with because we had bad TTTs, but we happened to be fast. And that's what maybe the teams can aim for, like, particularly in new teams, is just to have a strategy and then get as close as they can to that strategy.
So talking about that, Aaron, on the strategies, some questions that have come into chat. In the pre-work or the prep you're doing for the TTT, are you looking at, do you set power targets on the front and for a specific length of time, or are you setting speed targets on the front and giving people, you're on the front 40 seconds and we're aiming for 45k an hour? Like, what's the best strategy when you're doing your pre-prep?
So I use Zwift DS for riders that...
Zwift DS?
Yeah, so Zwift DS is a online calculator which gives you a ballpark of pull watts and watt kgs, and then it averages out what the team's contribution is, and then you can see which riders need to pull longer and pull shorter. So if you've got like an even team, then you can all pull even turns at the same watts. There is a speed difference, so using watts per kg on the flat doesn't work. So if you have me at pulling 7 watts per kg, which will be like 510 watts, and then you have a smaller rider pulling 7 watts per kg, they'll be but are the same height as me, then they'll be going slower or faster, depending. Like, we'll get into it with the TT bike things. Like, there's a bit of a speed difference between lightweight riders and heavier weight riders for the same height, and vice versa. So I always go for watts on the flat, watts per kg on anything 3% plus, and then use Zwift DS to work out the length of time that people should be pulling, and then start from there, and then over time we massage it, and throughout the race we massage it because you can have a good day, bad day. The calculator is not like 100% correct with how Zwift actually works, so it's a ballpark thing. And then you got pacing to come into it as well.
Wow, I did not know that Zwift DS existed. So thanks.
It's
for
awesome.
that.
So they have a spreadsheet thing that you can use in Excel that's like pretty like basic, but the online calculator is awesome because it will give you a predicted time for a course, and that is a calculated course time, and the closer that you get to a really well executed TTT is the closer you'll get to the predicted time. So my aim, I put into my PDFs that I send out to the guys for each race, I will put that predicted time. And up until the TTT bikes, it was super accurate. And then after TTT bikes, it's not so accurate. The watts per kg and the watts are still all accurate. And it really gives you an idea of who you need to use up early, who you need to keep for the end. Like when you have a look at it and you play with the numbers, you can understand, what's going on. But those numbers are also based off people drafting properly. Like the pull turns at the front, there's a range from 1.2 times your FTP, like a proper FTP, not like a 20-minute FTP, through to 1.35. So we race at 1.4 times FTP, and any coffee class can do that, although their races are longer, so maybe not survive if you draft properly. So
okay,
and then basically go from that. So people definitely look at Zwift.ds. It is a fantastic tool, particularly if you don't know your teammates.
so that is for those
Can we
listening.
speak real
Yeah. Oh, sorry, for those listening, it's Zwift-ds.com. So head there before you hit WTRL. Sorry, Nathan.
That's okay. I was really stuck on the idea of the best way being paceline, unless some slingshotting was being used a lot, because speed is always going to be king or queen still. It's always going to be, the thing that's going to win the day. And the reality of being able to slingshot speed through from a churning method, if you are very dynamic and very able to be aware as a team, you could continually churn yourself to higher and higher speeds over and over. Maybe not always continually getting exponentially higher or anything, but you could always continually use that churn, that the rider who's coming through to take their turn will always be in an accelerating mode. You do that a little bit in pace lining, but the one thing you did just say, though, with using Zwift DS is if you draft properly and you are able then to use these. And I think one thing that gets missed a lot with hybrid or churn, and the reason why paceline tends to be the one that is favored for doing this in quotes correctly, is because hybrid and churn tend to not focus on drafting well to reserve energy. A lot of times people are just kind of willy-nilly all over the place and not really focusing on how much energy I'm actually using with the amount of fighting that's going on. And I'm starting to, come over to the dark side a little bit. I'm starting to be like, okay, well, I'm not sold that it's the fastest way, or what exactly is, because I have to do a lot of testing between them. I've been doing Paceline for well over a year, I think, at this point, and have found it to be the best way in a lot of teams that I've been a part of that have won a lot of team time trials. But I wonder if that has a lot to do with, because even within my team, when we use Paceline, it still is messy, and it still has a lot of problems where I don't feel like everyone's reserving as much energy as they possibly could. And would we learn better in a churn hybrid situation because of the movement and stuff of when we're fighting, because we get more opportunity to see it, I wonder, too, just for practicing. So
the thing with churn is this is what we've currently got at the moment. So when we had PD 2.0, Peka Peka won every week because it was a pacing thing. Like that draft dynamic was hideous. You didn't get any draft. There was sticky watts. Like, so if you negative splitted a race and you basically kept everything under control early on and then finished fast, then you would do well. Like, there was no real churn effect. It was pretty bad. Then when we went to 3.0, we kind of picked up the churn again from the first draft dynamic. But what's the common theme throughout all of these changes is that if you have a good pace line and then it can adapt for any of the rollers and stuff, you will have the most consistent performance. So it might not necessarily be the fastest performance, but every single week you will do well. So some weeks we do well, some weeks we have teams that do something else different to us that is faster that week, but every single week we're there. And so that's where you have to decide as a team, like, do you change stuff every week and then do it badly all the time, or if you pick a camp? And then also know that churn is probably not going to be around forever. So if you are really backing churn, then at some point you're going to have to learn to do something different. And that might not be Paceline, it might be Arrowhead or some sort of hybrid will work better for 4.0. So that's where, although I love the Paceline, I know Nathan loves the Paceline, there are still problems with both ways. But the biggest thing, like I said at the beginning, is that halfway in between doesn't work for anyone. Like, you can't pull the hard watts at the front when you are sitting above threshold in some sort of draft. So, so you need to be able to do a VO2 anaerobic effort and then come back and do tempo and then come back again. So whatever you need to do that, do that.
I think like one thing there's two things that have come out so far for me. One is to go to the Zwift DS website, which I'm going to do today because we're practicing our TTT at around lunchtime, my time. The other one was kind of from both of you, is I think what we're going to try today and what we'll try in WTRL is I'm going to look at the course and figure out what Nathan called what was it, Nathan? It was like from football. So like the words. So the parts. Audibles.
To call an audible.
So call an audible. So an audible part of the course where I'll be like, look, this bit is rolling and actually the momentum of, say, this rider who's a bit heavier and maybe two of them, it's like that 1 kilometer section, you two need to push pace to keep our pack pace high. And then our audible will go back into the single line when we're on the flat. So I think that's kind of a key takeaway I've had, is that it's not sort of, is it churn? Is it single line? They're both important, but you need to know the course and make it as you'll love this, Nathan, make it as controlled as possible. So minimize the chaos, up the control.
And also because we've had the TTT bikes, the TT bikes introduced into TTT for WTRL, like you can't practice with time trial bikes, but you can still practice with your team. So you can only practice when you're doing the race. And there's been like some changes with the TT bikes, which I like, and some that I don't. So like the team speed is based off, without the Zwift addition of speed, is your CDA and your watts, just like a normal time trial on the flat. So if someone's aero and they're pushing 400 watts, then they're going to go X amount of speed. If someone's more aero and they're pushing 400 watts, then they're going to go faster. So Zwift uses height and weight to determine that. And that's where I have an issue. So if you've got two riders pulling the same watts and the shorter rider will go faster. So if you've got someone my height at 6'2", and then someone at Nathan's height, like 5'10", 5'9",
No.
then Nathan will go, you will go faster by about 1.5k an hour. If you've got two riders who are pulling the same watts and one is lighter, then the lighter rider will go faster. And then if you've got two riders doing the same watts per kg, they will basically go the same speed on the flat, but that is not like 100% correct because of the Zwift effect. So on the TT bikes, a lighter rider has quite a low CDA, but the shortness is massively different. So the CDA changes significantly between my height and Nathan's height.
Right.
And like significantly, like they looks like they've used the bell curve, and on a bell curve, shorter riders have like a lower CDA, and taller riders have higher CDA. Now, in real life, taller riders can have a low CDA.
Yeah.
So what they've done is, if you've got a shorter rider, it is a really like significant difference. So if you've got a whole team pulling the same watts who are all 6'2", like basically my team, then we will go slower than a whole bunch of people who are Nathan's team, and they don't need to do the same watts. So
is that why you're so fast, Nathan?
Yeah. So without getting too complicated, that's the reason why you see like kg riders winning like TTT, individual time trial on Fago flats. Like you get a proper TT individual rider doing a time trial on the flat, and they're doing 400 watts, and then get beaten by someone who's 55 kgs. Like, that would never happen in real life, but that is the Zwift effect on the TT bike. So that's why things have kind of evened up a little bit, and then it's made it look like watts per kg matter now. Okay. But it's just because lighter riders are pushing good watts.
Okay.
Sorry to go down the rabbit hole. That's just my... Like, because I'm a tall rider and I'm being disadvantaged, and then my in real life CDA, which you can see my bike here, like is really low. And so I'm like, my Zwift CDA on a time trial bike is much, much higher than my in real life one. So that annoys me.
Real quick, let's head on over then. I mean, one of the reasons why people might be wanting to watch the program or listen to the podcast is that the ZRL is extremely popular, and we have 2 team time trials coming up. Race number 2 is going to be on the Greater London Flat, and race number 5 will be on Watopia's Waistband for team time trials. What's really interesting that I'm just seeing right now is I see a little truck with 100% pickup for a power-up. Is that going to be, is that right? Is that there's going to be, I don't know if you two know, but I just am noticing there are drafting power-ups
I just noticed
available, but I've never seen a drafting power-up available on a TT bike. So is this a change in game? I'm going to have to go and ask the Zwift, but Aaron, have you heard anything about this?
I had, like, that's the first I've heard of it, and I wouldn't know how that would affect the TT bike. Like obviously there's a draft effect on the road bike is quite high, and it's quite long as well. So it'll be super, super useful. And there's also quite a few places in London to pick up a draft. So if you're always going to get a draft every time you go through a banner, then that's going to make life very interesting. And that was when you'll definitely need a DS. To make sure that people are using that at the correct time instead of just using it when they're starting to suffer. Like that's one way of doing it. Like particularly if you've got a reasonably mixed team, but if you've got a reasonably even team, then deployment of that would be awesome. Like there's so much.
Now I'm wondering if it's a mistake or if that's for real, because I've never heard of a power-up being able to be used on a TT bike. But if it is available, with the higher speeds of these time trial bikes, it's going to assist for those moments where suddenly you just lose everyone, right? Like my first experience of team time trialing once the TT bikes were introduced was how quickly that group would disappear from you if you did not hold that pack well. And I think a drafting power-up could help a lot of people who are maybe a little bit less familiar with this, Aaron.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that we have found with the extra speed of the TT bikes is that if you are a little bit too far off the back, because the speed is so much faster, then you lose the wheel faster. And that's like, so then it feels like the last position is like the worst position ever to be in. But it's only because if you drop off the wheel ever so slightly, then it's a little bit worse. But you can also use that in another way. Like the teams who are doing churn, like when you start a pool, and you can start a pool with the draft, and then you, if you know that there's a particular section, like there's a couple of sections on London where you're climbing, but there's still good draft. If you have someone pull at the front, then someone hits a draft and comes through, and then someone else hits another draft behind, so that they've got a wheel held, then you could go quite fast up a couple of those rollers, which are only 30 seconds of effort, with well-timed stuff. Like, that's something that would be hard to practice, but be good to try. Like, that would be awesome to do. Like, adding the draft would be awesome.
Yeah, I think
you could get some hero polls, Anna, like serious hero polls.
Yeah, I've already seen in the chat that someone's got a drinking game they're suggesting for TTTs, which was quite hilarious. So each time someone overlaps wheels, each time someone gets dropped on a downhill, each time someone gets dropped after their pull, they have to drink if their Discord quality is crap. And then I also said a hero pull, you've got to skull the whole bottle. So that would be, I think, a good one. But I mean, if I look at the draft, and my immediate thought is, I guess I'd utilize it for a recovery. So I would rather utilize that for a recovery and then be able to have 3 really quality high power pulls, as opposed to kind of use it for speed. But that's just because our team has a bit of a, I mean, at one end of the scale, we've got like a Jackie Godby who could just pull like insane watts off the front. And then we've got quite a light rider whose raw watts are nowhere near that. So I think we would have to use it more in a recovery strategy. If your team's more even, I could see that you could use it to gain speed, but for us, maybe not. So I guess Aaron... Oh, sorry, Aaron.
So London's tricky though. London is like, out of the 2 courses that's coming up, London is tricky, because even when you're on 0% in London, when it changes to +1% or -1%, like that, the resolution on the screen of that indicator is not, as 1%. Like, you're doing 0.5% lots. So even when you're on the flat in London, there's still, like, you're wondering why you're pushing hard and then you've dropped from 50k an hour to 48, but you're still at 0%. Like, there's still,
good point.
It's quite tricky with keeping momentum. So, and then with the amount of rollers and the amount of time that there's like a 2% climb, like where you're still drafting, but you still need to keep an eye on things. There's so much time to be made up if you get that right. So I will give away a little bit of the secret for Anna's thing. So I used Best Bike Split, which is a website that will predict an individual time trial performance on a course, and they have Zwift courses and Best Bike Split. So then I put in what I would do for a normal individual time trial, and then it will pump out the best way to pace that based off the elevation changes, and it will change the target values for going up a hill or down a hill, and then I would apply that to the plan for the team.
Okay.
So that's getting right into the real, like, super nerd stuff. But
I used to use that. The last time I used that website was for pacing my Kona race like 6 years ago. So the basic premise is that if you do an individual time trial on a rolling course, the fastest way to get through a rolling course is to not stay at 350 watts the whole time. So if you're going up a hill, because you slow down, you put a little bit more effort within a parameter going up the hill, and then when you're going down a hill, you do a little bit less watts, so that you can still keep your average right, but you're fluctuating maybe 10% around your target for the course. So if you add that into the 10 time trial dynamic, then you will end up going faster for the same average watts. So for anyone who really wants to go down that rabbit hole, it is quite useful. But it's also something to be aware of, and the reason why sometimes using speed for your target can be useful. Like, you want to be going fast for the whole time. So if you push harder going up a hill and you hold 45 instead of letting it drop to 42, then you'll go faster overall.
2 things just real quickly, for new teams, ZRL, it's coming up. What would you suggest as far as like takeaway for the upcoming courses that they could take away from this to head into this? I would think, practice, DS, churn, not churn. What would you say? Like, just give them two things that they could take away, and then we got to move on to our next segment.
No, so for the next two ones, use the first one for practice, the second one to get it right. So 45-second pulls, and try for churn with a lead rider for a new team.
Nice.
Yeah.
Those are great. Those are great. That was perfect.
Yeah,
that's exactly. If you're doing CRL, there you go. We got that snippet. Hello, Instagram. There we go. That's it right there.
Yeah, and just remember, if you're tuning behind a lead rider, just don't fight the wheel. Like, just trust that draft will get you back around again. Like, just don't fight the wheel. Like Nathan says that a lot.
Don't fight the wheel. If you don't want the Nathan rage, don't fight the wheel. That is 100%.
If you're tuning, then you need to trust the tune. Like, in the same way as in the pace line, you're trusting the pace line, and the tune, trust the tune.
Right on. Well, Aaron, we got to get going. Really, really appreciated having you on. Depth of knowledge. I think we learned about 2 to 3 different websites today that you can do for TTT. I think this is going to be super popular with those that are coming into the ZRL with 2 new team time trials in there, as well as we got to have you back when Pack Dynamics 4.0 launch and any more new additions to team time trial. It's always great to have you on, Aaron. The PC Yoda. If you're looking for a PC build as well, he's the guy. So, Aaron, we'll see you soon. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Well, as always, it's great to have Aaron on. He helps out everybody when it comes to building up PCs and talk about deep dive into team time trial. Well, the next favorite part, Anna, though, this is the fashion show. It's what the entirety of the podcast was born off of. And so what is the garage pick off today? I'm hearing something about leather and shoes. So tell us all about what's going on with the leather shoes. Is this a part of the Oktoberfest? Is that where these came from? Or no?
No, they didn't. So I think I just went through my garage last night because I was like, what should I talk about today? And I was like, I might talk about the Tour of Macquarie Islands swag, but I am actually going to try and get that before I talk about it. But yeah, I found these leather shoes in there. I was like, ooh, I've seen a few riders rocking these and they look really cool with a whole bunch of kits. They actually look really cool with those white socks. And I'm wearing the retro kit and they looked quite good. But I guess a question I kind of had, and it harps back to last week where I talked IRL versus Zwift. Does anyone ride these IRL, or is this like a full throwback to the past?
I am not sure. I think that there was in the last couple of years, there was a company that did a throwback kind of like this. And I do think that there's some specialty companies that do like leather seats, leather shoes, specifically for cycling. And you pay a couple extra bucks for it. I have never seen it in racing, that's for sure. It's more of like somebody shows up to your Saturday morning group ride on both like the, nicest freaking Pinarello you could possibly have that costs $16,000 with some leather shoes and a leather or something. I don't know, or maybe an old school Peugeot. I could see that and some leather shoes like this. But besides that, rare though, very, very rare. How did you get these? Is my question.
I have no idea. I don't even know if they're an unlock. I should know this, being the fashionista, but I don't know. I think I gravitated to them because I'm in the market to actually get some new bike shoes. I'm currently running my very old Velcro tri shoes, and I know I need to get some cycling shoes. And I was like, oh, leather. Some real retro leather ones would be pretty rad. The only thing that I don't like about these in the game is that they've got the BOA dials, and I'm pretty sure back in the day, if you're going retro leather, they would have been lace-ups. But anyway,
that's weird.
Yeah, I'll let that pass.
That there's BOA dials on there. I was noticing that, that just doesn't fit. I don't even think you would have that on a modern one.
No,
Like,
no.
I wonder if that's kind of like how there's no pedals. Like if there's
Yeah.
like that's like a Zwift thing where like, oh, it accidentally got copied over and it wasn't actually supposed to be there.
Maybe that does actually. I think it looks like a copy over. So there we go. Garage pick of the week is the retro leather shoes. If you know how to get these, tell me because they're just in my garage and I'm not sure why. But on to the jersey pick of the week. So we're still ranking our jerseys. I will get a graphic done for this at some point. Leith KQM is still number 1, but I've actually put this as number 2. So this is ahead of the KQM sprint mashup I showed last week. This is the jungle jersey. So this is what you get for doing that loop in the jungle the fastest. And do you know what? I don't mind it. I like the color scheme here. It's kind of some aqua greeny blue with a sort of maroon red. And they've pulled in the Aztec sort of design, which, you know, there's a lot of that Aztec sort of stuff around the jungle, you know, like the motifs and things. So they've really tied that in nicely. Side on view, it's got really cool designs around the cuffs and the cuffs of the jersey as well. Little sort of maroon Z from Zwift. And yeah, this isn't actually me. This is a different rider, and she's paired it up nicely, even though she probably didn't
I thought you
intend
did
to.
this on purpose, Anna. I
No.
thought you did this on purpose. Like that looks really well matched. The black with
No.
you look at those socks, and then the bike with the S works, the color scheme, and the blue on the gloves. I mean, very well done. Black helmet with it really matches up. And I have to agree with you. I don't know, this side view up front. I was thinking number 2 when I saw the top down, but now from the side, I don't know. This is challenging Leaf for me.
Is
This
it?
is challenging Leaf for me. I don't know. This is
okay.
pretty sick looking. And also the uniqueness when you see it next to your name on the right hand side. The
Yeah.
uniqueness of the look of that one and the fact that you can show it off in Watopia and there's more people to show it off to because you're in Watopia. That also is kind of nice too. So this challenge is for number 1 for me personally.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll see what I'm going to get the rankings graphics done, put it up, see if we can get a vote on. Do we think this is better than the Leith KQOM or not? So there we go. That is the fashion of the week, jersey of the week, the jungle lap jersey. Now, I do have fashion in the field before we close off, Nathan, is got to be the Halloween one. It is it is the Mecha Masher Halloween Pacer Kit. Now, this was awesome. I mean, top down, it's a rocket ship. I just think it looks so great. Face on view, this crazy looking robot. It just made me laugh a lot. So had to have it in there. I don't know if anyone else hit up the Pacer bots and what crazy kind of fashion you got, but I like this one.
Transformers, more than meets the eye.
Ooh, who's singing?
Or what else? I mean, what else can we have? There's also what was the cartoon back in the day where like they had to join up all the tiger or cat looking mechanisms to build the giant mechanism? It was like before Power Rangers, but Power Rangers kind of stole the idea. Come on, chat, help us out here. Let us know. I forgot the name of that cartoon. I absolutely loved it as a kid. That reminds me of this as well, though. This is probably my favorite costume so far.
Yeah.
As far as costumes go, I think this is the best one. I haven't seen one this good done by Zwift so far. So good job on Zwift on the Halloween costume that they set up for this. Great, really, really cool.
Yeah, I thought that one was good. So, Amy from chat is, there's a few coming in. Gundam or He-Man? Either of those, Nathan?
I don't think it's that, but I know that why they would say both of those. Maybe it was just He-Man, but I think there was another one. I'll let everybody know next week what it was exactly, but absolutely loving it, that's for sure. So, okay, the last but not least, what is happening this weekend? You, as well as the rest of the week, obviously ZRL round number 2 of this season is kicking off next week, Tuesday. But before then, we have the weekend, and it sounds like you're going swimming in the ocean. Is that what's happening?
I am actually going swimming in the ocean tomorrow morning. So our triathlon crew is heading back out to the beach, so that'll be really nice. Swimming in the ocean, then we actually go do a crit. So I do a crit around a little neighborhood on the bike, so that'll be fun. I'm actually about to pick up my bike. Had to make sure it was roadworthy because it has not been on the road in a while. And then doing a little run off that, so that'll be fun. And then I think Sunday is I might go and recon stages 1 and 3 of the upcoming continental qualifiers. So head out, just kind of do them easy, see, that they're quite hard, the courses, I gotta say. So I just want to feel what it feels like at 100% trainer difficulty, because that always makes things feel a bit different. And might try and do the tour of Makuri Islands because I quite like the kit. So I wouldn't mind the kit on that one to show off next week, because there's some cool, they've done the visor, which I hate, but there's some cool little accessories you can get outside of the visor. And what about you, Nathan?
Yeah, lots with McCurry coming up. The last thing there is we will be seeing some Yurikaze at the end, it looks like, as well. So new roads toward the end of McCurry Islands. I'm in Brazil. Might race my mountain bike here in Brazil. We'll see about that. Otherwise, hanging out here until Monday and landing just in time to stream ZRL race number 1. So be watching out for posts over on Insta of all things Brazil. I know that we are 3 minutes over time here, everybody. So if you want to watch this, listen to this, we were live on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, as well as maybe Twitter. Not sure if it went out to Twitter today, but you can also catch this anywhere that you can listen to a podcast. Make sure to search Zwift and the Wrap on anywhere that a podcast can be listened to. And we will see you next week for episode number 17 for the Wrap. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And as always, ride on.